Okay, shalom. This is right before Shabbos Parshas Balak. Let's share some Divrei Torah. It's a very auspicious Shabbos. It's the Shabbos before Shivasa B'Tammuz. A lot to talk about. Let me focus on one idea in the Parsha. At the end of the Parsha, we have the Psukim, V'yeshev Yisrael b'shittim, V'yachel am liznot b'not Moav. Torah tells us that these Jews that had gone through the process of Yetzias Mitzrayim, Matan Torah, and all the Nisim, and you name what, finally, after graduating the 40 years, shall we say, Kolel experience of Ananei Kavod, Be'er, Man, you name it, but when they met the Midianite ladies, there was a certain segment of the people that went wayward. And this was something which caused something unbelievable. What the pasuk says, "Vaytikrena la'am v'chei Eloheim," and the ladies called the people to join them in the sacrifices of their pagan deities. And they ate, vayishtachavu le'Eloheihen, and they bowed down, prostrated themselves to these gods. Equals, it was an idea of avodah zarah. Vayitzamed Yisrael lebal pa'or. It was not enough that they worshipped a pagan deity. They cleaved to it. Vayitzamed. It means it's something which is cleaving tightly. Okay. Vayichar af Hashem b'Yisrael. Well, we all know, as the Medrash says, the Gemara and Sanhedrin, it said Vayitzamed lebal pa'or means that they were in a sexual encounter with these non-Jewish girls. Pasuk seems to be describing the sexual encounter with the non-Jewish. The Gentile young lady is perceived as tightening your connection with Avodah Zarah. I'd like to explain a bit what that means because it is very important. We live today in a world which assimilation is not uncommon, and that would be an understatement. What is the tragedy of assimilation? I'd like to read a Rambam for you in Hilchos Yisurei Bia, Perik Yud Beis, 12th chapter. The Rambam writes in Halacha Dal, Kol haboel goya, any person which has a sexual encounter with a non-Jewish, bein der chatnut, whether it was done through some kind of official legitimacy of marriage, bein der znut, which is done in a wayward, just promiscuous way, if he did it under public auspices and knowledge, there were 10 people there. If zealots will kill him, they are to be praised. Then the Rambam continues further and writes in Halacha Vav, Lo pagubo kanaim. What happens if there's no zealots around? Or the zealots did not kill this person. And the court did not give him Malchus Mardus, didn't give him Malchus D'Rabbanan. The punishment for this person is found explicitly in Divrei Hanavi. Shu b'karet. This is a pasuk. The pasuk says, "Shene'emar ki chilel Yehuda et k'dosh Hashem." For Judah, the Jew has basically desecrated the sanctity of God. Asher Ohav, the God which loved him. How did he desecrate the God which loved him? Baal bat el nechal. He had a sexual encounter with the daughter of a pagan deity. Yachet Hashem la'ish asher yasena, that God cut away, kores, from the person that does this, va'ona, which the Gemara says, Im Yisrael hu lo yelo b'chokhmah ve'ona b'talmidim, there will be no spiritual continuance of this man. V'im kohen hu, and if he's a priest, lo yelo magish mincha l'Hashem tzvakot, he will not have a child which will continue in priest. He will die childless. This is kores. You know, there are two averos which have a chi of kores midivrei Kabbalah. And they're both there because it's a desecration of God's name and essence. It's interesting to know. One is what we just read, Haboel Aramit. It is not just a sexual issue. This is a theological issue. It's called Chilul Hashem. Why? I'll tell you the other one soon. And the Rambam says, Hinei lamadita shaboel goyal, he who has a sexual encounter with a non-Jewish, kilu nitchaten la'avodah zara. It's as if he had a marriage ceremony with paganism. Shne'emar u'ba'al bat el nechar. Because you had a sexual encounter with the daughter of a pagan deity, v'nikra mechalel hakodesh, and thus you are discrediting the sanctity of God. What does this mean? What is this idea of kilu ba'al bat el nechar, kilu nitchaten ba'avodah zara? What is the severity of this? You know, there's one knows that the Gemara said that all the songs are called Kodesh. Amr Akiva Kol Shirim Kodesh. All the songs in the Bible. I don't mean all the songs in the hit parade. All the songs in the Bible are holy. But Shir Shirim is Kodesh Kodeshim. Shir Shirim is the highest level of Kedushin. Obviously, what does this mean? You know, you look at the different songs in the Bible, they're very profound. Shir Shirat Hayam, Shirat HaBe'er. We usually had the Shirah about the Milchama with the Amorim, etc. It's very, very beautiful songs. The songs of David here, also very beautiful songs found in Tehillim and also in Sefer Shmuel. But the most important song is the Song of Songs of Solomon, Shir Shirim Asher Shlomo, and that's called Kodesh Kodeshim. Now you wonder, because if I look at Art Scroll printings, it would seem to be that the people there were afraid to translate it literally, and they only translated according to Midrashic commentary. They were even afraid to put down a regular translation there, and I know why. It's simply a love song, a frustrated love song between a man and a woman. A love which is not consummated. Each one is trying to find the other. It almost sounds like not yeshivish. Why is that Kodesh Kodeshim? You know, there's a book called Reshit Chochmah. It's a book written by very early Talmid Talmido Shel Ramban, quite early. And he has a shar there called Shar Ahavat Hashem, the gate of love of God. He's got a sentence there which could turn you around and spinning. Kol mi shelo ta'am avat isha, harei hu kechamor le'avat Hashem. Ki min hamuchash yavo el hamufshat. He who hasn't experienced truly the love of man and woman is like a callous donkey. He's clueless of what it means to have the love of God. For it is only from the tangible that we can finally have a handle on the conceptual. If we want to understand what God says means I want you to love me, think of love of man and women and then multiply it by infinite. That's a Lashon Rambam Hilchos Tshuva Perek Yud, when he describes Shir HaShirim as the metaphor of love of God. He said is the unquenchable, frustrated thirst for the encounter of the man and woman that love each other. Then he says, and much more than that is the love of God and man. And that's what God wants from us. You know, the major machloket in what the interpretation of the word Lashon HaKodesh means. The Ramban infers to this, but the Shalah elaborates on this in one of his ptichot and one of his prefaces. That when we look at the words in Lashon HaKodesh, the word ayin, for example, does not mean physical eye. And then when I look at the word eye of God, oh, that's a conceptualization of the tangible eye. Eye really means my eye. Oh, this is like the eye. No. It's different. In Hebrew, the words mean what they mean in their source form, in the God reality. The true ayin is Ein Hashem. The true yad is Yad Hashem. The true regel is, Va'aretz hadom raglai v'kadosh baruch hu. My body is nothing more than a metaphor to that. The words in Hebrew describe the celestial truths. The usage that we use in our material world are nothing more but borrowed terms. Lashon HaKodesh is a way of looking at everything in its purest conceptual, metaphysical form and saying, this is nothing more than a metaphor to that. It's a way of looking upwards to your source and saying whatever I experience now is nothing more than an external garment of that primary source. It's like seeing physics, experiencing physics when you open a book. I don't say book, I say physics. Oh, this is expressed in this garment called book. That's what Lashon HaKodesh really is. It is a transcendent language. Thus the body of man, when we look at it, we see it as a metaphor for what its primary idea is in the highest forms. It would seem to be that organ of Homo sapien, which is the reproductive organ, is a metaphor for what is called Midat HaYesod, that within God, which I wouldn't say empower, the tool he uses to connect and interact, to translate his feelings into a tangible connection. Its metaphor is that organ of Homo sapien. Yeah. You know what that is? Shir Hashirim is telling the story of the connection of man and woman. It's really nothing more than a metaphor to the true connection of God and man. Well then, the metaphor, the tool that God uses to connect to man, and especially to the Jew, and specifically to the nation of the Jews, is Midat HaYesod. The basic midah of foundation of connection. Translating his ideas and his feelings into a tangible interaction. And God gave us an organ, which is supposed to be seen as a metaphor for that. And that's what it's supposed to be used for. He gave you, I would say, the scepter of the king, that capability of taking a capability of true connection, and through that, connect to your nation, your soulmate, to your God, to your destiny. And you take that organ and you connect to a place which should not be there, but rather to something, a recipient which is purely pagan. You are taking the greatest tool of connection that God gave you, and you're connecting it to something which is the antithesis of God. You're literally taking the mashal of Midas Yesod HaKadosh Baruch Hu and connecting to Avodah Zarah. The idea of a person has to look at his body and as himself as nothing more than a merkava shel mala. You're nothing more than a vehicle of bringing kavod shamayim. We have to learn Lashon HaKodesh. Not Ivrit, because Ivrit is just another language. Lashon HaKodesh, I mean really Lashon HaKodesh. The biblical language is the language in which I know that every word there is a mashal to the big nimshal. When I talk and I think Lashon HaKodesh, I think in source, in origin, and I look at the whole world around me as nothing more than an expression of a deeper truth. Thus I understand that when I interact with people, I'm using my powers of interaction as a mashal of the powers of interaction of God in creation. And if I connect to the right things, I'm living God's connection through my physical self. I've elevated my whole existence in the world around me. So if you don't do that, if you use God's gift of connection to connect to the opposite of God, there's a chiyuv korus. It's a terrible thing. And here, another thing, there's another Averu which has another chorus like that. The Gemara says, Kol mi shebiyoli lilmoid v'loi lomad. Any person that has time to learn. I don't know, you have 10 minutes? You have 20 minutes? You have 4 weeks off in the summer? Do you spend, I understand you need vacation. You need mental relaxation, but how much golf can you play, and how much deep water fishing can you go, and how much whitewater rafting are you going to do? You really need all that for your vacation? Or is it just because what else should I do? Kol mi shebiyado lilmod ve'eino lomed. Olav nemer hakasuv. Hikaret tikaret hanefesh hahi. Ki dvar Hashem biza. Again. You have the capability of thought. God gave you the capability of thought, of learning, of understanding, of comprehension. A mind. Atah chonen ladam dat. He didn't mean how to play Pachisi, or Monopoly, or even chess. Atah chonen ladam dat umlamed lanu shbina was trying to understand him through his wisdom. Whether it's Torah, or even whether it's the sciences, or anything else which enhance your God awareness. Yeah. As the Rambam says, Chochma ve'avata chochma. Yeah, that's included in Torah. And you don't do it. What do you do? You put that mind and connect to things which are the total opposites of God. You know, wasting time. A Gemara says a person that wastes time, he's over a lav. What's the lav? Al tifnu el ha'elilim. Don't go towards empty, meaningless pagan deities. And the Gemara says that includes like wasting your time reading a stupid novel. Sitting like a couch potato to watch some stupid movie or television program like the Seinfelds, which you will forget a second later. That's al tifnu el elilim. God sees this as avodah zarah. Same thing. The connection of the mind, or the connection of other parts of the body, those tools which are used for connection, internalization, and creating oneness, must be focused on the Kadosh Baruch Hu, on His will, on His daya, and not on anything else. So this is the message I can say about this week's Parsha. We have to start talking Lashon HaKodesh. We have to start using our midos, and specifically our capabilities of connection, for things that are worthwhile. Have a great Shabbos.